Hi, I'm Emily Taylor from Collage Quilter. I have been doing this collage quilting and designing for 5 years. 2023 represents the 5-year anniversary, so I thought it would be kind of fun to look back and talk about what I've learned as a designer and show you some of my mistakes and successes. I also thought you might be interested in kind of learning the design process, because for 5 years trying to come up with ideas and concepts and turn them into patterns, I look back and I'm like, that seems like a lot, right? To be creative. It's hard work. And the more I do it, the more I realize, yeah, there's a method to this, and I'll share it with you today. The first thing that I do when when I'm trying to think about a new quilt or project is I will start scrolling Pinterest just to pin things that I think are beautiful, that catch my eye. And Amelia's good at this too. So we will share a board and we will start pinning things that just catch our eye. And then we'll discuss and brainstorm and kind of, say, maybe this would make a good idea, or this is a good idea. And then the next process, so we kind of collect ideas on Pinterest, and then I start looking for photography. So I always work from photography that I have purchased. I have an account where I have a subscription and I buy photography, and I can pin my photos on iStock. And that's kind of the second step for this design process, looking through photos that are of the same subject that I've found on Pinterest that are inspiring. So Pinterest is my inspiration. iStock is what I do next, and that's kind of looking at the technical images to see how I might pull that into a design or create a design with that. The next step is actually working and cutting up fabric, selecting fabric, and applying it mostly to parchment paper, just because that's the quickest and easiest way to get a feel for whether something is going to work and turn into a design, develop, or not. And most often something is in the not category. In fact, just yesterday I pulled something off of my design board and crinkled it up and threw it in the trash. And I tried to find it today, and I think it got taken out yesterday. But I thought I'd show you a few of my fails, a few things that didn't work out. I go down that path, and then they don't work. In fact, Amelia and Katie, my sister-in-law who works for me now, have been joking a lot lately about the process for me to go down the road and see how something is coming. And they just think it's so funny that I, time and time again, will be like, nope, that's not going to work. Nope, I don't like it. Nope, it's not fun for me to do. So there are a few things that I'm looking at. It has to be interesting for me. It has to be a challenge for me, but something that keeps my attention. It also has to be, I'm looking to find a subject that's not too difficult, but that's not too simple. And so there are a bunch of different things that I kind of am looking at as a designer. So I'm going to show you some of my fails. So I thought, let me start by also saying, okay, so I have some successes here in the background. So this was this last summer, Amelia? I can't remember. 2 summers ago, I came up with this table topper idea. And this, I still absolutely love this design. This is called Sweet Summer. And obviously watermelons, fruits. The watermelons are super simple. The fruits may be a little bit more difficult. So it hits that sweet spot of just challenging enough. Not too challenging, and the result is really beautiful. So I thought I would do another summer sort of design. I kind of wanted to do some placemats. So I started down the road and was working on some raspberries, and I realized, you know what? It's just not happening for me. So we're not going that way. Then a few years ago, and here's the other thing, I keep a lot of these things just to maybe sometimes I need to revisit them or look at them again. Anyway, so some of these things I've had for a while. So here's a little bunny rabbit. And I just felt like I actually went through the process of finishing him, and it just didn't quite nail it. It just didn't have the it factor. I mean, he's okay, but he's not good enough to create into a pattern. I went down the road with this cat. This is from my cat Oscar that died last year. And so I did this actually while he was still alive. He's missing a few little pieces because they've fallen off, but again, didn't quite nail it. So he goes in my drawer to probably not gonna happen. Well, because it's the 5-year anniversary of Collage Quilter, I thought, you know what, I want to make a happy birthday banner, because anytime there's a birthday in my household, we decorate for the birthday person at night so they can wake up and have a happy birthday with all the decorations. And one of the decorations is a big happy birthday banner. And I thought, oh, that would be cute to do a happy birthday thing. So you can kind of see I was going down the path, getting this cake going, and I might still do this. So I don't know, I might. But I'm not super enthusiastic about it, so it's kind of cute, but we'll see. So that goes in the drawer for maybe. Here's a butterfly that I did while I was kind of messing around with the Wee Green Beasties quilt, thinking about, well, I was kind of in this phase where I was working on critters. And so I'm going to show you a lot of critters. It's fine, right? Like nothing super special. Blue flowers. These definitely have potential, but yeah, we'll see, right? Okay. Now, more recently, well, I think I'll save that. So I also want to show you some critters that I'm really happy with, and I put them on the fabric and started going down the path of incorporating them into a quilt, but now I'm like, it's a wasp. It's not a bee, it's a wasp, and I don't know how many people will be interested in creating a wasp. I mean, maybe. So it's a maybe. I really like it. I think it turned out great, but it's sitting in my drawer, unfinished, not part of the quilt. Another project like that is this iguana. Like, it's well executed. I'm really happy with the iguana, but it's an odd shape, and I could incorporate it into a quilt, but then again, I'm like, well, what do I do with the rest of the block? I've kind of started to enjoy embellishing the block, turning it into something interesting. So that is, we'll see. I don't know if maybe I'll throw it into an alphabet quilt for the eye. So there we go with that. Sometimes I create a little critter that I'm happy with. This little bunny. I've done many of these bunnies, and you may recognize this comes from the Woodlands quilt, but then when I put the composition together, he never made it in. So there's my bunny. Maybe I'll, in the future, I would love to do another Woodlands composition and use this bunny rabbit because I think he's adorable, but so far I just haven't done it. Okay, so more recently, well, last summer I was working, let me just keep going. I'll show you a few more fails real quick. Last summer I was working on the garden party quilt, and I did a pansy. This is a pansy, right? Yeah. And I wasn't super thrilled with it, so this became my test quilt. So whenever I am needing to test my thread and needles and tension and all that stuff before I begin quilting, I pull this out. And this allows me to quilt on something that is collaged, and it also, I will test needle, so anyway, that's that. So that's become my test. Here's a fish that I did thinking this might work in the octopus garden quilt, but it's just, I don't know. We'll see. It just didn't have that it factor. There's something, I can execute something and it just doesn't quite measure up. So most of these things are that way. Hydrangeas that Again, they're okay. I could put them in a composition, but they just don't have the it factor. Same with this one, a bowl of peaches. I love peaches. In fact, I was out thinning my peach tree yesterday. I'm going to have a gazillion peaches. And it's okay. I just don't know what kind of composition I'll put it in. So this goes into my drawer to percolate. Let's just think about that for a little while. So now I'm a cat person, and so is Amelia. And so we kind of, a few weeks ago, were like, let's go for a cat quilt. And I still actually intend to do a cat quilt. The first cat, I think it was this one. I'm not happy with it. There's just something wrong with the shading. Sometimes working from a photograph can be really challenging. And so this just doesn't have it. So this will not be in the cat quilt. But I kept going with the cat quilt. And this little kitty I'm very happy with. So this, I think, while his little face got kind of light, it still works. And I think this is going to make it into the cat quilt. So you might see more of this one. And then I did a Siamese cat. So again, I'm really happy with this. I think that nailed it. And these are keepers. So those are kind of, I just thought it would be fun for you to see some of my fails. I'm collaging all the time, always mining for ideas and concepts. And while I'm doing that, that's a really hard, frustrating, emotionally kind of draining period of the design process. And I've just been in that process, and I have decided we've come up with a concept that I'm pursuing now. I'm not going to reveal it at all. No teasers, no hints, but I'm setting my cat quilt aside to really work on this new concept. And I am ecstatic. And it's taken me lots of trial and error to get to that point. So anyway, I want to show you again some successes, and kind of, actually, I want to show you, this is one of the first quilts that I did. And it is, I would look at this now and be like, wah! Massive no-no. So this was one of my very first quilts. This was the very first aviary quilt. Let me tell you what I don't like about this, and then we're going to compare and contrast this to what I have going on now. So the first thing, I felt like I needed to have a giant quilt. And therefore the birds became gigantic, and all of the pieces in the birds are gigantic. I don't like that because there's not enough detail, interest. It's a very stylized design, and I don't like it. I honestly didn't like it when I created it. And another reason that I don't like it is I don't like my fabric selection. I was working with fabric that I just didn't love. So the number one rule I've learned is work with fabric that you love, and incorporate as much fabric as possible. And if you're not happy with something that you're doing, but you're really passionate about kind of improving, just keep going. So that was 2018. This is where we are. And then this was 2 years ago, 2021. And this is where I am now. I am super, super happy with the roosters. And this is an example of a success for me. So you've seen probably some of the roosters in progress, or I've posted some of them online. And this is the finished foundation panel. So one of the things that I've been moving towards, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, is creating a complete composition with each block. And creating that composition is hugely challenging. The collage becomes the easier part of the composition, and then creating an interesting, beautiful block is what has been my biggest challenge lately. So that was kind of the driving force in designing this fabric collection. So this is my Petit Rouge fabric collection, and it features these 6 blocks. You'll learn more about that in coming weeks, but it is for sale, for pre-order, available now on collagequilter.com. So anyway, this pattern also is still available because this is a keeper. I love this one. Sweet Summer is the name of it, and it is also available at collagequilter.com. So that is a little introduction to my design process and some things that I'm thinking about as I go down the road to try and find a design that will work in a composition. I go through lots of trial and error, and I think about the subject as well, how difficult it is, what kind of project it's going to make, and how I can create a beautiful composition with a block and with a larger quilt. So there you have it. I hope this has been interesting and enlightening to you. It's been interesting for me as a designer to kind of learn to identify my process for design and to see where I've come from. So from 2018 to 2013, and I'm really happy with the way I'm going, and I'm not there yet entirely, but we'll get there, right? So thank you for joining me on this creative journey, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out or leave a comment on this video. Also, please subscribe to my YouTube channel for additional tutorials and content about my creative journey. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day. See you soon.